So hey guys, today I'm going to talk about how to improve your art. So obviously, not that good at art, why listen to me? That's ridiculous. Well, the thing is, I'm trying to improve. I think I've seen improvement in my art, and the thing is, you can't trust people who are good at art to tell you how they got good at art, because it's kind of like that whole YouTube thing. So if you listen to a YouTuber that's made it, how they, managed to get out to get popular and like achieve their dreams, chances are that there's like 100,000 people that did exactly the same thing and didn't succeed. So you can't trust entirely what they're saying. Of course, you also can't trust me because I haven't even succeeded, but I think it's a valid, perhaps helpful thing. We'll see if I improve enough to disprove this statement wrong. Right, that doesn't make sense. So I think one main thing that people, especially people that don't make art, don't realise is that there's realistically no such thing as a good artist. If you ever meet an artist that thinks that they're great and they can't improve, then they're probably not that good. We always see flaws in our own work, but also there's always a varying ability within your own work. Like, you can make something really beautiful and meaningful one day and just a disproportionate sack of potatoes the next. Like, even the potatoes are disproportionate. I think I'll give you a little read through of two of my books. So one is a sketchbook that I've had for about 6 months or so, and there's a lot in there of bad stuff. And also my Inktober, it's just November now, so just recently, just seeing the varying quality within that work and kind of the, not development within it, but just the struggles, I guess. This should be the best example. So this is a little notebook I've been doing Inktober in. So this is all from a month. I bought this, I think, a week before, just a few days before October to do Inktober in, so it was fully blank before then. So this is literally a month of just doing art every day. So day one, Mandrake. This was a better sketch. It was a nice enough sketch, and then the watercolour ruined it, and then the pen kind of ruined it. It did look better, but I'm overall quite happy with like the pose of the grumpy Mandrake man. This is actually one I was really proud of. I spent a lot of time on it. It's a curse was prompt, but it's kind of it's essentially like a poisonous mushroom, and that's the like death. This was an example of, it looks good, but when you step back you're just like, oh man, that's not proportionate. As you can see, this was originally a very wide stanced woman. I think it looks much better as a skirt, but her hair and head is incredibly disproportionate, but it's not that bad, I'd say. So this is Royal. This was using a reference of a woman sitting like this on a chair. It's not that good. If you look on my Instagram, I did a drawing of a slightly better princess. Not brilliant, but a better one. I don't know, she kind of looks like she's floating a bit, but I'm overall happy with her. This is Solitude, so there is a weird mark texture, if you can hear, and I turned that. He was kind of shaped vaguely like a man, so I turned it into a man on a bridge. It was an experiment. The water looks more like a log, but it's a nice experiment in kind of abstract, just scenic scenes. I think the biggest reason why the water is so bark-like is because I should have put more. It should have either been much less there or much more there to balance it out. This is very bad. I don't even know whether I spelled mimosa right. It's glitter. So this is glitter. And it's bad. That hand. I don't think I used a reference for this, but just bad overall. This was divine. I'm very happy with the paint. It looks cute. This is all using pearlescent paints and trying to find an angle where you can actually see it. There you go. I mean, the pose is okay. Their arms is a bit too big. This is a pose I made myself, but I came up with the pose. I didn't use any reference. So for that fact, it's not that bad, but it's not perfect. Vulnerable. This is some sort of a little mouse creature. I used a reference of someone holding a little hedgehog or something. So the hand isn't that bad. It's a bit, you know, of a lumpy hand, but it's kind of supposed to be over like this, and it's kind of just looks flat with the way I drew it, but I'm quite happy with that. The little mouse fairy creature. This is Elixir, so I used a reference for the bottle, and it felt kind of empty, so I added a fish. The fish I think kind of ruins it. I should have used a reference for what the fish should look like, but I'm quite happy with the shape of the bottle and the way that I made it so it looks like it's twisting. Soul. So this is from my interpretation of soul was like, you know, you die and then you pass on. So that's kind of their soul, you know. It's kind of prickly but beautiful. It's a thistle. I was quite happy with that. It's not a perfect skull, but it's a grumpy little skull man. This one's reasonably good, and I think this is quite nice in my representation of what I'd like to do with scenes. So this is moonlit, and this is a cat at a moonlit window. This is the moon. The cat's somewhat disproportionate. It's supposed to be going like, you know, scared cat, but it's not exactly perfect. I think it should have really been up and had a big head, maybe? I'm not sure. Next one, ship. So this is a Viking ship, and I quite like that. Got a grumpy little dragon boy and a little Viking. There's not much to say. I think I just kind of represented what I wanted to and didn't spend time on anything else. Might have looked nice with a bit of colouring in, I guess. This one was fun. This was feathers. I was very limited in what to do with that. So it's a feather, but it's a skull feather. So I was trying to do it, you know, doing all these lines in different colours just by using different thicknesses. And I was going to try to do that with for the skull, but just because it was so detailed, I needed to do an outline. So maybe next year I can try to redo this, but with not needing that. This was Phobia, so this is a little spider, cute little spider boy with a little droplet hat, water drop hat, because Catherine, my sister's phobia is of spiders. This is wax. This is a little shiny bee, buzzy bee, and yep, I'm actually quite happy with this. I like the fuzziness of its little butt, and I think bugs are nice because they're once like birds, they're kind of different sections and different features very close to each other, so you can kind of proportion one to the next quite easily. This is Witch. I'm quite proud of this one. The legs are a bit short, but I think I just had to fit her in the frame. And I used a reference of a real woman. And then kind of, she's a bit more stylistic in the head and whatnot. Her shoulder is a bit disproportionate, but overall quite happy with it. The hand, best not to talk about. Incandescence. I think I really want to redo this one. So it's kind of a British gentleman. I was thinking kind of 1960s, 50s style. Young, I don't know, kind of post Sherlock Holmes era. Arthur Conan Doyle era, I don't know. But kind of classic illustration of gentleman. But he's got like a classic style lantern for a head shining out and creating incandescence. This one I'm also very happy with. This is Sleepy. It's a picture of my two cats, Artemis and Kuro, and that should actually be a blue collar. That should be a red collar. Well, she doesn't have a collar that you could see, but I didn't have a blue out, so that's red. And it's really cute. I used a reference of them, and I think it went quite well for the fact that they're black, and it's very hard to, you know, work out where the little different bits are, because black is black on black. This is Guardian. So this is kind of a golem protecting some sort of a magic place. And I'm quite happy with it. It's okay. It's a bit floaty. I think I could have put more character in it if I were to do it again and spend more time on it. This is a wand, so I think that's a pointy end and that's a holding end. But it does seem that this one is the part producing magic, so I'm not sure. I just quite like the style actually. It's holding kind of a sphere. Healing. This one. I don't know why I chose this. It's not that bad of a pose. It's not that disproportionate, but the character I can't really be proud of. This one I'm really proud of. C. This is on Instagram at Sharks. This is a photo of a shark that got bitten in half, and I just love his little dead eyes. I'm really happy with this. One of my favourites. For some reason it's on this side. This is Spell, so it's some sort of a kraken in a bottle. I imagine you can make some magic potions and spells out of that. This is Lost, so it's kind of the idea of being lost in a crowd of people, like not feeling unique or, you know, feeling unimportant. And it's basically just a lot of character heads. I tried to make sure that they're all showing a different amount of head and looking in different directions. They're not all just like staring at you. Limerence, so that's kind of like creepy stalking. It's not really, it's kind of obsessive love. So that person's stalking that person. That person, I wouldn't stalk her. She's very disproportionate. This is Nightmare. I didn't spend any time on this. I mean, I did, but it's not really worth much. It's not bad, but there's nothing good about it. It's one I spent quite a lot of time on. Wistful, mainly because that. And I practiced a lot of hands on mugs to choose which one would work. But she's okay. It's not really Inktober, but most of these aren't. Fog, I'm quite happy about this one. I'm not that happy that this obviously isn't watercolour paper, so it doesn't work that well. But it's a churchyard, it's all foggy, and there's wisps and ghosts and spirits, so Halloween. Golden Child. Kind of thinking Goldilocks, kind of the perfect child that you'd want. Except you'd probably want a more proportionate child. The shoulders are a bit much. And the last one, Sparrow. So, doing what I do well enough. Birds, just sitting, having a good time. And there's some others, like I was practicing for the princess sitting one. This is one of the previous options. This is an upcoming repaint. I was trying to draw some sort of bush baby, some pose practice, little pumpkin-y girl. So that was the inspiration for my just the hat tutorial. I didn't get to the whole dress. Someone looking very disproportionate and sad. Todoroki. wearing hot like fire, cold like ice boots, trying to draw myself, just a person, planning ideas for a ball jointed doll, more planning, trying posing, some ideas for stamps, then back to back. This is my planning for my logo. So this is going to be a little sleeping guinea fowl. This is kind of the design I went with in terms of proportions, which I made a stamp out of, which you will see soon enough or already. Some more pose practice. This was like reading a book. I can't remember what day I was going to do this, but I was going to instead of whatever I made. More planning. And one I'll show a bit later. So other than looking through your own work, your past work, seeing what you're doing badly, what you can improve on, what you have improved on, which is always a nice little thing to look at, I think what's really important is to have role models. Now, I don't entirely like role models because like you shouldn't put someone on a pedestal and like think that they're perfect and try to follow someone else's path, because they're not going to, they haven't started at the same place, and the paths we all follow are going to be varying, like, you know, there's ups and downs and different paths to take, and what works for someone else will not necessarily work for you. But I think role models are important as kind of something to inspire you and keep you going, and something to aim for. Now, when I say aim for, I don't mean try to draw the same as them, because obviously that's not going to work. I mean, at best you're going to be a 2-bit copy machine, and I've never sketched, like, drawn over, copied someone's work, apart from photographs, to kind of get the shapes of the body parts and the angles and whatnot. And even then, I'm not very good at that, so it hasn't been very helpful. It's better for me to just observe the poses and then try to understand it. And I'm still not there, but goodness gracious, but I'm trying. I would say that I have about 4 role models. 2 like rather influential, and 2 kind of casual. So the first one is Miss Angest. I don't know how to say it, sorry. I DM'd her on Instagram to get permission. I also did Instagram DM'd Delightful, which is my second one, but she hasn't replied, so sorry if you didn't want me to. Too late. But Miss Angest was a really, I would say she is probably the most inspirational person that I've seen doing art. So I like doing doll dress-ups and character creators, and just going onto like the websites where they kind of share other people's games. I came across her work, and I mean from the beginning I really felt for her. I mean, when it was quite a few years ago, so I wasn't really trying at art, but she had, the characters had quite disproportionate, the reasonably disproportionate torso to legs, mostly quite like not long enough legs, and I did ask for permission to talk about, because it's to see progression, and basically, you know, I noticed that, and I still enjoyed the games, and I could see there was a lot of love and a lot of attention in them. And then just, I was really happy seeing over the games her ability to proportion the legs and the other features like really steadily improved. And I was like, I don't know, it was kind of secondhand pride, like I'm like, oh, my little girl growing up, but she's still probably older than me and I've never met her, but it was really inspirational to me to see her developing and putting an important thing I think is putting your work out there even if you aren't perfect. Because the thing is, when you go on Instagram, especially for the doll side of stuff, you see these beautiful, beautiful pieces, and they're so perfect that you kind of think it's impossible for you to attain that. And just seeing someone develop and improve was, I'm sorry, crazy eyebrows distracted me. Just seeing someone improve was really nice. And it makes it seem more attainable for you to then improve yourself, which I think is really nice. Somewhat differently is Delightful. So she's kind of more inspirational on the YouTube doll repaint side of things. So I haven't really seen her develop specifically. I would say you can probably see her editing style and whatnot develop over time. I watched a few of Simply Nailogical's videos from just like a year ago, 2 years ago, and man, I really, she's developed, like, it's crazy how different like the editing and video style is. But not talking about that. So Delightful for me, when I started watching her, was kind of a finished product, and it's kind of like an aim of being like, I'd like them to be that smooth. I'm really inspired by her character building, the ability of putting character into these dolls, because going through Instagram, quite a lot of the dolls are kind of beautiful, but they're not really character. They don't, or at least for me, they don't evoke a character more than cute, you know? So I really enjoy not only the aesthetics of it, but what the purpose of the aesthetics are. And I think that's really inspirational, and it's kind of like, it's not even just a goal to aim at, it's kind of looking and analysing what work you like and what work you don't like, and being like, what's the difference between this? Well, I don't not like the pretty ones, I just don't like them as much. But like, what is it that she's doing? Is it character choice? Is it colour choice? Is it shape? Is it what's letting her achieve what she wants without being too extreme? And I mean, if you've seen my dolls, I'm not spot on with that. I'd say my characters usually end up with a different character than I initially imagined. So like my first repaint, I kind of imagined her to be a bit more sassy, and she ended up a bit more kind and big sisterly, and most importantly Marimo. She was like my favourite character in terms of like when I drew her, but she was kind of more of a worried, timid character, but I think she gained a bit of confidence in my repaint, and she's a bit less worried. And I understand that's probably primarily eyebrow choice, but it's kind of an aim and how to get there. My two more casual, I've got them up on my phone, my two casual inspirations are Maruti Vitamin. I'll just add some, I'll add it in post, and I just really like the shapes of her characters. They're so gentle, and I really like the emotion she evokes through the posing, and they're really soft and casual and just gentle, kind of flowing characters, and I quite like that as a style. I'm not sure, I think another thing is, when you're looking at people that inspire you, is obviously to not copy them, but be inspired by aspects of their work. So my art style, I think in the end, is kind of going to be a combination, I don't know, a combination of semi-anime style in terms of eyes, but more semi-cartoonish realism in terms of proportions. I'm not so I don't think I'll make faces like her, but I want to just have a touch of her ability with poses and the style of that. And the second one is more recent. Scroll down to get her. I just found through the Instagram feed, you know, when you just look for search and it just pops up, and she does more character scenes, so it's not just a character, a human or whatever floating in the abyss. I enjoy her ability to integrate character with more of a storyline, I guess. She hasn't uploaded in a little bit because I'm just scrolling through my feed now. It'll be soon. And she's kind of got a similar kind of character shaping, but it's a bit more purposeful. Okay, so it's Hey Kala. Whoop. You can't see that. I'm gonna just add it in here. Ooh. And I just like the kind of storyline that's achieved through, it's kind of a it's not a simplistic style obviously, but it's kind of like, it's not realism obviously, but it's kind of a simplified version of the world. It's a style, it's stylistically complex, but not as complex as reality. And I think I would like to be able to use, draw an actual landscape, an actual world, rather than just a floating abstract piece of stuff. Not to say that the previous person did that, but usually it's kind of more of a background and a character, or a background, a character and a foreground, rather than a scene. And I think I'd like to kind of, I don't think I'll ever get to, or necessarily want as complex of a scene, but just kind of like more integrated. I think that'd be really nice. And I think I'll end this off with the biggest hindrance, and I think the biggest motivation, at least for me. The biggest hindrance is that one's imagination, that's great, you see what you want to make, and you just can't achieve it with these horrible, useless hands. And it can be very frustrating to not be able to, it's just kind of, this is the idea and this is what's created. It's just kind of not, it's a floppy idea of what you wanted to create, and it's really off-putting. And I think the important thing obviously is to keep going. I think one of the biggest things that I can use an example of this is just like trying again. Like, you don't need to try to draw the same thing 18 times. But just like, if you know you're having a problem with hands, because gosh knows everyone is, you draw a hand a day. If it's frustrating you that much, then if you just try and try and try again, and importantly you're actually trying, you're trying to think of how to do it, you're not just going through the motions of doing it, you will improve. So this is my biggest example. So I used a pose off Pinterest, a person holding their cat, and I think you can see the stylistic influence of the previous two Instagram people. Maybe not in the cat, but in the face, in the person. And I'm really proud of that. I know it's not perfect, the hands are janky AF, but you can understand what I was trying to do through it. And I think as a developing artist, that's really all you can ask for, just to be improving and get, even if you're not getting, you know, the solid idea across, you're letting it trickle out. You're getting a squishy jelly substance. This analogy makes no sense, but it can be frustrating, but try again, and try purposefully. Like, try different things, don't do the same thing in the same way, I think. Should help. I don't know. I've improved a bit, I'd say. And the biggest motivation, I think, is your idea of what you want to create. Like, I mean, not everyone that makes art wants to be an artist, wants to, you know, be in a gallery, wants to be well known necessarily. They just want, you might just want to be able to create something. And I would say for that you need to find out what, I mean, have at least one idea of, I want to be able to do this. If it's a technique, if it's an object, if it's an aspect, if it's a medium of art, just focus on something. If you're just drawing a dog, then a building, then a flower, then, you know, a rock, you know, you will improve, of course, if you continue doing it, but it's going to be much slower than if you are just like, I want to be able to draw a hand. Hands are hard to draw, but if you focus on at least one thing, you'll probably improve faster than if you were trying to do everything at once. But of course you don't want to be able to draw a hand and nothing else. So it's a tricky balancing act. And I think for that, my main thing is that I have an idea in my mind of one art piece that I really want to create. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because I want to create it. And so far through my Googling, no one has actually had this exact idea with the same meaning as I want to. So I'd rather not tell anyone so that I can be the first one, or at least unique in some way. But I think one of my aims is I want to be able to draw characters, because that's kind of rolling in the whole doll art and art. But quite often on Instagram and just like how I see art and I'm consuming art, or, you know, casually, they're quite often just, ooh, I'm pretty, it's not even hands, it's just a pretty head. Like, or it's just a, you know, it's not a full person, and if it is a full person, it's not usually integrated within a scene. So I think just for my own, you know, ego, I'd like to not be like everyone else. I'd like to be able to make something a bit unique and, like, I don't know. I think I'm aiming at not creating floating characters within an abstract world. I think I'd like to be a bit more of a scene, or at least sit on a bench or something. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe in a year I can post a video on how I've improved, if I've fallen off the bandwagon and not done art for like a month or something. I doubt that, but we'll see. And I think I'd like to hear how I improve, and I'd like to hear if you have any tips, or I don't know, any advice you'd like, because talk to me, dudes. That would be fun. And thank you, come again.
They have very long legs.